Tell me what's on your mind.
Hi there, Cooper here from Telepathic Bunny Comics. Today, we would like to talk about internal logic. Now, I prepared a couple of characters for our perusal today, just off the top of my head. So, let me open that up. Meet James. James is our protagonist. He's a 58-year-old white man from the South. He is straight, he is religious, but he has a black grandnephew from a niece who had a child out of wedlock and is raising the boy. Now, the boy's name is Jermaine. His father's relatives have nothing to do with him. He's raised in a Baptist church and he likes to be called Jay. The subtextual clues, okay? 58 years old, which means that James is a boomer. He was born in the 60s in the South. He was a child during the Civil Rights Movement. He would remember JFK assassinated and MLK being killed. He was a teenager in the 70s, so he would have seen a lot of the integration happening, and he would have been there for the inception of it. He would remember the KKK still had power, was still active. And you remember when Democrats were openly racist. Now, he'd also remember when marriage was prized and divorce was rare, but out of wedlock, and was becoming increasingly common, but still not very common in the South, which was called the Bible Belt for most of his life. The niece in question is not Mother of the Year, and Jay has mama issues. Jay also has abandonment issues, and he has trouble fitting in because he's a black child being raised by a white man in a probably predominantly white community, because the black community wants nothing to do with him, so here he is. Okay, that's subtext. So James would not have racist attitudes consciously. Not consciously. Why? How do we know that? Well, the fact that he took Jermaine in. We'll call him Jay. He wants to be called Jay. We'll call him Jay. He took Jay in. Okay? Now, people do that for all sorts of complicated reasons. But being a 58-year-old white man in the South, straight and religious, and he took his child in from the street, who happened to be black, or half black. However you want to call that. So, you don't do that. You wouldn't do that if you had racist attitudes. You just wouldn't. It wouldn't fit eternal logic, okay? Now, Jay calls himself Jay, J-A-Y, okay? Now, why not J, the initial? That would be more ghetto. That would be more gangster. Or Jermaine. It would go with Jermaine. That would definitely be more black. But he goes by J, J-Y. Which is kind of more Caucasian. Now, I'm making some generalities here. And yes, I know there are exceptions to every rule. But the exceptions should fit the eternal logic, okay? The eternal logic would be that James is not racist. He's just not. His actions show that he's not racist. He grew up in a racist era, and he also saw that change. Civil rights, integration, JFK, MLK being assassinated. And then he would have been there for a lot of that. And he takes his child in. I believe Jay's probably a teenager now. So this has been going on for some time. This would have happened when he was in his 30s. So Jay took in a child when he was in his 30s. Single, white, religious male. Story writes itself, doesn't it? When these two speak, when they interact. Now, granted, Jay's probably going to be about that rebellious time. He's probably going to be looking for his identity away from James. So there's going to be some conflict built in. But these two, they probably love each other quite a bit. Jay, calling this was Jay. When James, some people named James, I've seen him called Jay. So, that could have been a nickname of James. And then Jay adopts it, so there's obviously some hero worship there. If somebody took you in when everybody else threw you out, you're going to have affection for them. I don't care what their skin color is. Now, they would... There's an internal logic to this relationship. There's an internal logic to this world. There's an internal logic to how they would interact. There's an internal logic to who they would be with one another. Just from the contextual clues and the subtextual clues. They're right there. This is a cool story. I hope somebody writes it someday. But probably not with today's modern racial climate, but I like this story. I'm gonna have to write it myself. So I showed you all that to show you one of the biggest travesties that has ever occurred in comic books. Show you the panel that changed it all for me. That killed Marvel Comics for all time for me. The panel that should never have happened. There's no subtext. There's no context where this would be possible. There's no planet, 616 or otherwise, where this would have been possible. They did it just to do it. And that is the worst reason to do anything. And this was at the height of Captain America mania. This was right after Winter Soldier had come out. The best Marvel movie to date, I honestly believe. This is when people started wearing blue shirts with shields on them. He was becoming more popular than he had ever been. And they had to destroy him. Why? I still mourn this. It still hurts. And it always will. Because it didn't have to happen. They did it just to do it. Anyway, I hope that helps. Gives you a little bit of knowledge. If somebody wants to write that story, feel free. It's a free IP if you want to pick it up. I think it'd be interesting. I'd like to see where it goes. And, farewell, Captain America. We will remember you as you were, and we'll keep you safe in our hearts. That's Cooper signing off. Have a nice day.
Tell me what's on your mind.